And so after midnight, I thought, what a great idea, cutting into my perfect finished sweater.
You know what? I'll just say this. Is the grocery store gonna get mad at me if I complain about the carts not being returned?
Wait, what?
Like if I come on the podcast and complain about something or talk about something,
Yeah.
am I supposed to talk about no people, places, or things while I'm here?
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you're having a very good day so far. If you're new here, my name's Taylor. I come to you from Baltimore City, Maryland, and here on my YouTube channel, I feature content that is generally focused on knitting and spinning. In this week's episode of what I call the Thread to Mend podcast, I have a brand new sweater I just finished to share with you all. I'm going to talk to you about how I made it, how I modified this pattern. It's a cardigan pattern, which I very simply modified by omitting the steek stitches along the center front and joined in the round. It's long enough that if I raise my arms, it is not a dangerous length. Sometimes when you have like a very deep yoke, the body of the sweater can be so short that you lift your arm up and all of a sudden you got a titty poking out or something. You know, it's not always safe. But this is like the perfect length yoke for me because it is dramatically deep. My armpit is in nowhere near touching any of the fabric, which means not only is the sweater going to stay cleaner longer, but I also won't be felting the underarms with all of the sweat and agitation of just wearing a sweater. You know, sometimes you get overheated, you sweat, there's movement and friction, it starts to felt the armpits. I have lost one of my favorite sweaters, the Jenny's Drop Shoulder sweater. I think it's by Hannah Fettig. It's in one of her pattern books. Loved that sweater, had to give it to the thrift store because it felted. So I love the depth of this yoke. I can lift my arms up and bring them down and it doesn't feel so tight that I have to adjust it. Like I don't feel like I ever have to adjust while wearing this because I made the appropriate yoke width. So I typically, like in the past, I always knit the smallest size because I generally wear an extra small in commercial things, and I would read the instructions and I would look at the ease and I would choose the appropriate amount of ease. But I learned after making many different garments that I prefer more ease than less. So when I'm picking a garment, I choose a size with the higher end of the positive ease range. And so I've been knitting more sweaters now in the second to smallest size for my 32-inch bust. In this sweater iteration, because I think that I have broader shoulders than most 32-inch bust people, I went with the third size. So I'll put the details on the screen. My iPad was dead when I started to record and I'm on a time crunch, so I'm gonna get my iPad out later and I will put on the screen more details of my measurements. I do apologize. But anyway, I knit the third size, whatever that is, and it has just the right amount of ease, and I love that for me. I can't recall the instructions of this pattern on the sleeve, but I will tell you that I decreased at a steady rate, at a consistent rate, every 6th round. I did 2 decreases along the side of the inside of the sleeve. I did a regular 1x1 ribbing, which you cannot see because this yarn is black as night, and I did the Italian sewn bind off for both the wrists and the bottom hem. And I also, funny story, I finished the sweater and wove in every end right after midnight on like a Thursday, like weeks ago. And I was like, oh yeah, I gotta fix the ribbing. I talked about the ribbing being messed up in a previous video. And so after midnight, I thought, what a great idea, cutting into my perfect finished sweater. I could not leave well enough alone. I threw a fit. I think I got the sweater back on the needles that night, but I did have to cut out the whole ribbing. So many of you had such great suggestions in the comments of that previous video about what to do regarding the purl stitches I accidentally knit. It was very hard to see that it even was, that I even did that, that it was, that mistake existed. I didn't even notice it until I finished the entire yoke, so there was no ripping back. But because it was in the very like front center of the sweater, I just could not live with there being so many stitches knit incorrectly. So I thought I would fix it after midnight. Bad idea. Went to bed in a bad mood, woke up, tried to fix it again. I think I got it back on the needles before work that day, and then I fixed the collar after midnight that following night. So it was like, I mean, 24 hours of anger and frustration with myself specifically, because I have no one else to blame for my bad choices. I could have handled it with more calm and grace, but I just had this manic desire to do it right now. And I think that was a bad decision, because I went to bed frustrated, I woke up frustrated, and I wish I had simply finished the sweater, went to bed, and then thought about how I wanted to deal with it the next day. But I got it done. It's over now. But it did, that whole like mood dampered, is that the word? It really kind of stifled any excitement I had in finishing the sweater. Like I was actually like not happy, and I had a brand new beautiful sweater. So I don't know if it was like that put me on like a downward spiral in my mood, or I'm sure it's the events of the world and just the mass disinformation in our country, and the fact that this administration is like attempting a authoritarian takeover, which I say attempting because so far they have not succeeded. That wackadoo Stephen Miller, who I hope you understand, like Stephen Miller is the devil. Like Stephen Miller is someone we should all pray for the downfall every day. He is just awful. And I think about him and what he is doing to families, like tearing them apart. It's so bad. And I feel that I need to say that out loud because I don't see or hear enough people say it out loud. And I feel like if I have even a drop of influence in the world somewhere, somehow, I want you to know I feel that way. Because, people don't talk about these things. They're not popular. It is not popular to have an opinion. And I just can't, I don't know. I don't like rely on this for my income. I do it for fun. And I like to think that this community, this little community I have here online is like the place where like minds gather. And so I've always generally been outspoken one way or another about how I feel about the events of our world. And it helps me to feel less alone when I see that some of you agree. I know many of you don't, and you don't watch my channel, and I don't know why I'm talking to you, but Anyway, I just feel like I need to say something because if not me, who? You know? So there's that. And also I feel that I need to say this now because Rhinebeck is around the corner, and something that has been weighing on my mind a lot is that I've been outspoken in the past, but not consistently. Like, I don't bring it up every week, you know, because I feel like a lot of you know, and I don't have to be a broken record and say, like, you know, dwell on the worst parts of the day. But when you don't often go to like very public events and it's like, you know, a big event, like a lot of people are there, a lot of people in the knitting world are gathered together, and it's a beautiful weekend filled with the things that we love and we cherish. I'm just very open and honest about my opinions, and I fear the judgment of people that don't know me. And I have this mild chronic state of anxiety about going to this event and people seeing me and thinking like the worst possible things about someone because I make comments on like things I don't like. So I don't know. I just wanted to get that off my chest because I don't want to carry it anymore. I don't want to think about it. I just want to go have fun and meet new people, and I want to see people that I've met before, and I want to wear my beautiful new sweater, and I want to pet some sheep, and I want to eat the fried salty oily Brussels sprouts with the garlic aioli, and I think I want to buy some yarn. Or I might buy a fleece because I was taking an inventory of my fleeces and a lot of them are very good, but there's always room for more. But we'll see. I have so much work to do on the fleece side of things, and I would love to talk more about that. Unfortunately, I feel like a couple of my fleeces, I'm thinking specifically about the Gotland fleece that I bought. I wish I was more careful with washing it. I'm afraid that the cut end felted a little bit, and I think it's going to be more difficult to process because of that. In retrospect, I would have laid it out all perfect, and I didn't because I didn't know better. But I love that side of things. I love the scouring of a wool fleece. But I purchased a fleece last October at Rhinebeck Sheep and Wool, New York State Sheep and Wool in Rhinebeck, New York, and I haven't touched it since I scoured it. It's fully scoured. It's scoured to perfection. There's no lanolin left in it. When you smell that pillowcase of wool, it is pure and clean and ready for combing. So maybe I won't buy a fleece, but if I find a lamb's wool, I'm thinking maybe a Shetland pure black. That's what I want. I shouldn't tell you because now you're going to find it and you're going to buy it and there will be none left for me, but I won't live in that scarcity mentality. There's enough for all of us. If I don't find it, it's meant to be. And I have so much more fleece at home I can spin, but that's sort of my goal. I found one time and I handed it off to someone because I knew they were looking for a black fleece. And it was so perfect. I think about it a lot. Like, I think about how perfect that fleece was and how I wish I had it too. I didn't want it then, so I'm really glad that they have it, but now I want my own now. So I think about getting a black fleece again. I know that no fleece is like perfectly black. They're all a bit of brown, but sometimes you find really rich, dark fleeces. So that's my dream fleece. If you're there and you find one and you don't need one, I'm gonna be in the wool barn as soon as it opens. That's my favorite thing to do. So maybe you can help me out. But anyway, those are just some random thoughts I have. I have a very exciting project to share with you. I just steam blocked it. I've been steam blocking my handspun shawl as I knit it, and I have to say it makes the process so much more enjoyable because you can actually see how the yarn or how the fabric will actually appear when it's finished. And this is the Finn Cross fleece that I spun into a 2-ply. I prepped it on my hand combs, so it is a woolen, nope, it's a worsted prep yarn that I spun at my Kromsky menstrual spinning wheel. And I knew that I did not blend this natural gray fleece all that well. And so you can see there's a variegation to the color, which I don't always love. I don't ever purchase variegated yarn. I like a solid. I'm a solid girl. I love heathers. I think heathers give beautiful dimension. In fact, I forgot to even, I talked about this sweater so many times in the past. I didn't go into all the detail about it. So I'm gonna put this on hold for a second. I'm gonna finish this gorgeous Bluebird cardigan made into a pullover review really quick because there is more I forgot to mention. I added short rows to the ribbing neckband. That was to bring the back of the neck up higher so that it sits more naturally like a sweater would. I knit the entire yoke exactly as instructed, except for the steek stitches. And I already mentioned the sleeves, how I decreased the sleeves, and the cuffs fit, I think, quite well. Not too loose, not too tight. And I did decrease the body. I'm extending my arms so you can see the effect. I decreased along the side seams. And I think I did so, let me count really quick, every like 7th round or so. And what that did was it took a really nice, generous yoke depth with a certain amount of ease, and it gave me about the same amount of ease at my narrowest waist. So that it's like proportional, the ease is proportional to my bust and my waist. So I would like to bring my waist in, and then I don't add shaping back to the lower half. Like a lot of the times waist shaping and knitting patterns, you decrease and then you increase again. I don't like to do that because I wear my sweaters a little shorter. It's not really a cropped length, but it's not like a, I feel like I guess it's a full length. In 2025, it is a full length. I feel like older sweaters are always much longer, but it's like the perfect length to do a little French tuck, if you will. So there's that. I think that I stopped, if I'm not mistaken. No, I did do my decreases until about 1 inch from the ribbing. So I guess I stopped close to the narrowest point of my waist, but not too much further down. Sometimes I just decrease for like a short while and then I knit straight till I get to like the narrowest part. Anyway, love this sweater. It is knit with Harrisville Designs Highland wool. I bought this yarn at, well, I wanted to buy this yarn at Rhinebeck, but they didn't have my color, the black color. So I bought it online, free shipping, so affordable. I love Harrisville Designs. Every year at Rhinebeck, Harrisville Designs has the best tote bag. And I'm gonna actually show you last year's because it's really good. With the tariffs and everything, things might be different. But last year, this tote bag cost only $15, which felt like a total steal because the Rhinebeck tote bag, although it has a zipper, and it has pockets front and back, maybe even on the inside. I don't know because I've never bought one, but they're like $40. And I love this. So I'm not sure that I'm going to come home with a Harrisville Designs tote bag, but if they have another good one, I'm spending $15 I don't need to spend on another tote bag because this one has been so nice to have around. I put all of my, well, like the shawls I like to wear to work. You know, all the gorgeousness. I have a lot of like silk scarves and things like that in here. So I have this like right by my door in the bedroom, so I remember to throw something on before I leave for the day. Back to my shawl. I'm obsessed. I have to stop saying obsessed. That's like so weird. I'm very much in love with my handspun shawl right now. I spent a night fiddling around with swatching various edges and had this like very ambitious idea to do a certain motif that I might repeat in the future along the entire length of the shawl. And it was so fiddly to start, I thought, I don't want this to be cumbersome for me or anyone else, because I do intend to draft this pattern for sale. So I just started with stockinette. And then I was like, ugh, I just love this so much. It's so much fun. I'm just gonna keep working. Actually, reverse stockinette is the front side. And I am using, I won't go into all the details because I think that's sort of what makes it special, but I really like the way that there is a very, and it does roll a tiny bit, which at first bothered me, but when I throw it on to try it out to see the length, I actually like the way it looks so thrown over. I'll show you in a second. But I just love the way that the edging is on the front side, but when you look to the back, it's like perfectly plain. Like there is no edge to the stockinette side, which is why it rolls, because it is stockinette, but it doesn't roll terribly because there are those salvage stitches, but you can see it's just a little, along the big bulk of it, it tends to roll in a little. I digress. I love not having to think on the wrong side, but I did want the pattern to be interesting. I didn't want to make a plain Jane pattern. I wanted to draft something beautiful, and I just started. So I knit like 3 or 4 more inches on this than I needed to, because I hadn't thought through the exact pattern and the beginning of the pattern and the ideal amount of stitches I need before the repeat. It's kind of just operating off of repeat numbers. So I had to rip back a lot this morning, a lot. Like I ripped back like 10 or more rows this morning to get the right number for the perfect side edge for me. And then I started knitting the chart and I was like, oh no, I need another chart to blend the reverse stockinette into the chart, because otherwise it just looks like this boring reverse stockinette and then all of a sudden lace, and I knew I wanted it to be more carefully designed. So I developed my own mini chart to blend the two together, and that's all that I've started working on. So I just begun the very first row of the lace chart, so you have no idea how it's going to look yet, but I didn't want it to be like I already said. So I figured out what the blending pattern will be, and I have those instructions drafted. I have my full chart already put together, and I just have to knit the chart and draft the written instructions appropriately, and then I will have the pattern ready for testing. So one thing I did with this project that I haven't done before, that I intend to do with every new thing that I knit, is every single day I placed a stitch marker, and instead of moving that stitch marker with my work each day to see how much I did that day, I kept it in place and I put a new one. So I could see like, okay, day 1, I was still figuring out my ideas and I got very little done, which you probably can't see right there. And then day 2, I knew I just wanted to keep working on this. So I got quite a bit done, but the rows were a bit short. So, that's not a ton of knitting. 3rd day, I did a fair amount. And then the 4th day, and then this could be the 5th day. Yeah, I think so. I think this was the very first 5 days I got this far. And then last week, there were at least 2 days I did not knit, so they're not recorded in my little log. And then there were 2 days I ripped back because I needed the right stitch count. So, I've made like probably no actual progress on the material in the last week, but I have the entire concept written. So I'm very happy about that. That's what I've spent all day doing today. And that's why I'm so late to record my regular video. But I'm thrilled. It was so nice to get up, start a load of laundry, sit down with my laptop and figure it all out. I feel very good about the place I'm in right now with this. But until I have the first repeat of the chart written, I don't feel like I can work on this away from my laptop because I like to check the writing as I work it. I know I could just go off the chart, but I like to cross-reference like the chart and the knitting and the written and the chart and the knitting, you know, so I feel like more confident when I'm writing instructions out word for word, which this pattern has a chart and written instructions. So I know not everyone likes chart only, but I cannot work lace without a chart. I need the visual. And I love the way that the stripes are working out with just the very simple back and forth. I didn't want to do a sweater or a cardigan with this variegation because the yarn is always worked in so many directions. I like variegated yarn worked in one direction. So I think this is gorgeous. It reminds me of like a stone. And I think this is the front. So I anticipate kind of wearing it. It'll be much longer in the front. So yeah, we just got to the fun part. I'm sad the stockinette, or I should say reverse stockinette, is over. This is no longer my mindless project and I have to think for a short while, but very soon I think it'll become more intuitive. Starting the lace pattern is the hardest part about lace, and to make it easy for myself as I continue to work on this, I have stitch markers noting the repeats, which I also wrote into the pattern too. And one thing that I think will be unique about this is that I'm going to provide the weights and measures of my personal handspun because that's what the project is worked in. But I also intend to knit a swatch of a commercial yarn and provide not just my weights and measures for my project, but also provide an estimation for a commercial yarn of a comparable weight so that you shopping your stash or shopping for yarn would know and trust that the numbers you are referencing are true and correct, which should be totally easy. It's just math. So I do like to build in a 10% variance because everyone knits a little bit differently. Even if they get gauge, the yarn can be a little different. So there will be that. And I'll probably note that all in the pattern. You don't need to know that now. But I love this. I'm very happy to be working on this. And then I also have over here, I'm going to talk about this, I have set aside 3 remnants of yarn that have been sitting in my stash for a while. They're all DK, and I saw a DK sweater pattern. I think it was suggested by Casey over on the Young Folk Knits podcast. I just put it in my favorites. I'm actually going to run and grab my iPad that's charging to tell you more about the details of this, but I really want to cast on this sweater because I have the yarn from my stash, and knitting from my stash is my greatest goal. I mean, of course, spinning from my stash of fiber is fun and exciting, but knitting from my stash of yarn is the final result. So yeah, I'm gonna go grab that. It's another pattern by Lynette, which I recently knit a pattern of hers and it was a flop. I failed. My gauge was way off and I should know better. But anyway, I'm gonna leave that in the past. Now I'm looking at her facet sweater, which I'll put on the screen. But it is knit with fingering and lace held double to make a DK, and she got 22 stitches and 26 rows to equal 4 inches in colorwork pattern. So I have not swatched yet, obviously, but I have enough yarn in each color to work these neutral shades. So a light gray, a medium, very cool, kind of a slate gray, and Harrisville Designs Nightshades. It's that color with the olive green blend. It's black mixed with a tiny bit of olive, which I love. It's my favorite of the nightshades. But I think that this raglan is very cute. I probably will not do a folded over collar because I don't know. I don't know if I like the way it stands up. But I think but I do like the way it looks on her. I'm a little worried that without a silk mohair, it will not have the same drape, but maybe I can knit it at a looser gauge and it'll not be so stiff. I don't know, we'll see what gauge I get when I swatch for it. But I already measured out the amount of yarn I have, and I have the right amount of yarn. Let me see what size. I forgot what size already I was going to knit. I'm going to knit the 3rd size in this sweater, just like this one, and I think it'll work out great. I might knit it a little shorter too, though. So based on the beginning instructions, maybe, I don't know how it works, but maybe I'll do something like the 3rd or 4th size. If the yoke depth doesn't feel long enough, like I might modify it slightly to make it work for me. But I just love that this is not in a drawer, that it's waiting to be knit, and that is an exciting heavier weight sweater. It's like DK full color work. This is a worsted full color work, so I'm making something a little bit lighter, but it's all over color work, so it's still a heavy sweater. I think that will be really fun to wear and really quick to knit. I love knitting color work. Color work is so fast and easy because it's just stockinette. You don't have to read your stitches, you just read your colors, and that is so much easier than lace, honestly. But it's not as travel friendly because you're always carrying more yarn. So I'm really excited to knit that. It looks like this pattern did just come out in September of 2025, so that's the reason it's on my radar. And another pattern that just came out is Andrea Mowry's Jaunty shawl. I bought this pattern because it was on sale, and I love a sale. But I think that it will be the perfect application of this big, juicy hand-spun skein. This is, I think, 120 grams, and she has 2 sizes in this, 4 sizes, I think. It's the kind of pattern you can knit in like any type of yarn. And so I saw it and read through the details, and I thought, I know that if I turn this into that, I will be happy to wear it. Whereas if I make a vest, and I never wear vests, I don't even own a vest to know if I like wearing a vest, I might not love the outcome. And I put so much work into making this yarn. I'm very excited to knit this into a cute little shawl that I can wear with almost anything in my wardrobe with this beautiful, beautiful yarn. And that's another thing I plan to knit. So I got 2 so far over here. I've talked in the past about knitting Sari Nordland's Iba tee with these 2 gorgeous yarns, the Wandering Flock and Isear Silk Mohair. This is the Cotton Lino yarn. So that I'm definitely working mid to late winter to wear in the spring. And of course, I'm not forgetting, I still have so much to knit on a nearly finished project that, you know what it's called. I can't think of it right now. The Chained Oblivion cardigan is what I'm thinking of. And then last but not least, I think I have them tucked away over here. I put them in a bag, like that's gonna help me cast on quicker. I have this skein of yarn that I overdyed from Spin Cycle. I got this from a viewer. They bought it in a remnant sale, and I overdyed it with black walnuts to give it a nice moody, muted tone. That's one thing about Spin Cycle. I think their yarn is gorgeous. They have so many beautiful colors, but I don't wear a lot of those colors. And if they made more like overdyed, dark, moody stuff, I would love that. So I made it myself. And this is a, what is this? Oh, I have a break in it. Anyway, this is a fingering weight 4-ply that I've had in my stash forever, and I'm gonna knit this into, I have a swatch here of this fabric. You can see it has like so much definition to it. But I'm gonna knit this into Teti Lutzak's Candelaria blouse. I think that will be a gorgeous thing. She knit this project with a natural fiber that's not wool. I forget, it's some kind of blend of, I don't know, a blend. But I think that yarn, I don't know. It's the only thing I think I want to do with that yarn. Let me put it that way. I'm not going to knit this anytime soon, but I do have it in my queue. It is the Volaire blouse by, too many vowels. I don't know how to say this out loud. I'll put it on the screen. I'm sorry. I try. I don't know what's worse, is trying or failing. But this blouse is a dolman sleeve, and you can't really see the effect of the dolman because it's kind of pushed up in a way, but I have a commercial cashmere sweater. Oh, it has an interesting sleeve like that there. I don't know if I'll do that. I might just knit a very long ribbed sleeve. But anyway, I saw this somewhere online. I wish I could recall who, because I've been watching a lot of really great podcasts lately. But I just thought it was beautiful. And of course it's knit with a cotton, linen, flax blend yarn, but I was thinking about knitting it with the Rauma phenol garn I have in my stash. It'll be very woolly, but I feel like with such a lot, like open, drapey design, I think that it'll be fine. I don't think it'll lack the drape it needs, honestly. There's one more that I'm probably not going to knit until like next June or July. That is the, what's it called? Lau V-neck by Sari Nordland. I happen to have bought this exact yarn before this pattern came out, and it's so pretty. I really want to have this in my wardrobe, and I think that it would be the very best application of that. I have the cotton lino in the sand color, plenty of yardage too, so I want to knit that, but I'm trying to be realistic here, and I don't like to knit too many projects at once. I like to have just a couple things on my needles at a time. And so right now my priority is my 2 handspun lace shawls, the self-design and the hen wife, which I think might be my commuting project next week as I continue to begin the written instructions for the first repeat of this chart. But I might get that done before the end of tomorrow and be ready to just keep repeating the chart by Tuesday. And then also the Chained Oblivion. I do want to join the sleeves and the body sooner than later. I'd say that, but I think maybe I just don't. I want to be finished with it, is all I'll say. I'm not, I don't know. I like, you know how we all have made things a certain way before, and sometimes doing something for the first time, it's daunting. The way the instructions are written to work the yoke decreases is something I've never seen before. And so I think it's brilliant. And at the same time, I've just never done it. So I'm kind of like, I gotta think about what I'm doing because it's not what I'm used to. So there's that. But I missed you all last week. I really wanted to record a video. I was in a terrible, terrible mood. And I think when you're in an awful mood, it's hard for you to present information eloquently, which I rarely am capable of anyway. But I'll also, like, I didn't want to even be around myself, let alone subject anyone else to me feeling that way. So anyway, I think the events of the world are just like overwhelming sometimes. And I'm trying to be a witness to everything going on around me, you know? If I can't do anything, if I have no power, at least I can be a witness, you know? And so it's just, you know, there's a genocide happening in Palestine, and it is absolutely frustrating to see the amount of control the Israeli government has in our media and messaging around that subject. I feel like at this point right now, with a forced starvation, we can all admit that this is a genocide. I don't feel like that's an argument any longer. If you disagree, I will link to a video in the description that might help you understand that perspective. That's how I feel. That's what I've been thinking about. And, I think the last time I uploaded a true podcast video, it was like the day after, or it was like right after Charlie Kirk's assassination. And so since that time, I've been consuming a lot of content, mostly comedians, honestly, but like a lot of the details around the facts of this investigation and what the FBI is sharing with the public, and how insanely like made up it all feels. It feels very made up. It feels like a total lie. So I'm just like fascinated with all the storylines that people are, picking apart and sharing online. And, I'm listening to voices that I generally exclude from my day-to-day life. I think that's part of why I was so depressed last week, is because I had consumed too much of toxic people. And, I think whatever you might think of what I'm saying right now, ultimately, I think what's most important is we all maintain an attitude of the enemy of my enemy is never my friend. And so I do maintain that perspective as I listen to people I do not normally listen to. But that's something that's been like consuming my brain is what happened here? What is happening here? And so that was I should probably let it go.
Okay, I think it's important for us on the left to know what's going on the right, because they have a massive media structure. It's massive. And one of their stars is, of course, Candace Owens, who our producer who prepared this episode called her Clandis. She's been able to kind of pop off because she's a big trans hater. Well, then Charlie Kirk was murdered, and Charlie Kirk was her friend. And now she's conducting an investigation into the murder of Charlie Kirk. She goes on a rant about the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson. Put this up. I want to break this news immediately because it feels important, and I think if I don't break it immediately, something bad might happen. I hope I have earned the trust enough of the people to believe me when I say that I have verified this information but cannot reveal the source. Tyler Robinson is not suicidal. The entire narrative that was placed in the media about him having been suicidal is completely fictional, as are many other aspects of what we have been told. His father having, quote, turned him in after a confession is also complete fiction. To the contrary, Tyler Robinson maintains his innocence and has never even been to the UVU campus. There are absolutely zero photos or video that the campus can produce to the contrary, which is why they have produced nothing other than a blurry image, which Tyler's family knows is not him. Tyler has never once expressed a suicidal thought. I want to make that clear. The federal government is lying about absolutely everything other than the fact that it is his gun. Not that we needed further substantiation, but Tyler Robinson did not author those Discord messages. I would like to again stress that he has never been to UVU campus, but and I need to confirm this later, I believe he was around the campus on that day. I will have more on this later, but I wanted to immediately publish that the Tyler Robinson suicide narrative, plus the, quote, dad that did the right thing after realizing his son was guilty, is a federal concoction. Now, I want to go on the record and say, I think Candace Owens is a grifter, and she's grifting off of the death of her alleged very good friend, Charlie Kirk. At the same time, I don't trust anything coming out of Kash Patel's FBI. If they had some smoking gun that Tyler Robinson was a radicalized leftist that had a penchant for trans people, it would be all over the place. And Pumps, you read something, there's a gag order on the case.
Yes, the DOJ asked for a gag order so that no one involved in the case, lawyers, witnesses, can speak out, which I might remind everybody, when Donald Trump was going through his many trials and threatening judges, that he was furious about the gag order, but his Justice Department doesn't want to talk about any of this stuff. And I think we all can deduce why. And I hate to give Candace any credit, but she's right. Nobody can believe any of this bullshit because none of it seems true.
Did the judge grant the gag order?
Yes, the judge has granted it.
Okay, so I just think that's interesting because usually in a case like this, you hear from the alleged, criminal that from their lawyer, especially in a high-profile case like this. So I think that's rather interesting. But she has a bunch of splintering theories about who did this, and here's one where she thinks that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. And I want to remind everybody, bizarrely, Benjamin Netanyahu has denied killing Charlie Kirk 6 times. 6 times. I've denied killing Charlie Kirk 0 times. China has denied killing Charlie Kirk 0 times. You catch my drift. So that shit's weird.
An intervention was staged by Bill Ackman because Charlie's rational thoughts about Israel were a no-no. This is not the route that you should be going on. And Charlie was surrounded by his friends, his quote unquote friends. Bill Ackman was very upset and threats were made.
Okay, so Bill Ackman is this billionaire Trump thumper, and he's the guy who writes like novels on Twitter. And apparently there was this like meeting at the Hamptons. But I will say that there is something, Israel has a problem both on the far left and the far right. Americans in general, whether they're on the right or on the left, are tired of us funding a genocide, and we see all of our taxpayer money going over there. And here's the thing about Benjamin Netanyahu. He is a crook before he was a war criminal. He has been in and out of power for the last 30 something years, like ever since I graduated from high school. He served 17 years total as prime minister. And something really important to realize about Benjamin Netanyahu is how manipulative he is. He sent carfuls, and this isn't conspiracy, this is confirmed by reporting by Israeli journalists, multiple Israeli journalists, and published by very esteemed publications. Benjamin Netanyahu paid millions of dollars, and he sent suitcases full of cash from Israel to Gaza to fund Hamas, to keep them in power, because he knew that he could stay in power longer if he was fighting them than fighting a more centrist Palestinian-style government. So Israel has even funded Hamas. And so as the Americans on the left and on the right, the center doesn't really stay as locked in to the news cycle. As they start to discover more and more about just how awful Benjamin Netanyahu is.
While denying, he talks about how Charlie Kirk loved Israel. And that was one of the things that he was at odds with all these other people.
What I think is just weird and needy is like how Netanyahu wants everybody to love Israel, and you don't have to love Israel. Like, why do 2 women that are atheists that live in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, why do we have to love Israel? Why can't we just, there's this pressure, this propaganda that's been put on American people that we are supposed to love Israel, and it's all propaganda. I mean, I think it's a really weird thing when you step back and think about it, that we're all supposed to love Israel. And he's going on this campaign, buying all of these TikTok influencers to try to get everybody to love Israel. And it's like, bitch, please, we have so many goddamn problems.
Right. Why is America supposed to fund all this when they have free healthcare, free college?
Right.
I mean, it's just bananas. But here's the deal. He needs America to give him the money. And he's got his buddy Donald Trump by the horse collar.
Those are my recent thoughts. I'm trying to still make things. And I watch a lot of YouTube while I make things. So I think that's it for this week's episode of the Thread to Men podcast. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you want to find me on social media, my name is Taylor E. Owen on Ravelry and Instagram. You can find me over on TikTok as Taylor Knits. And if you want to leave me a comment below, because you made it this far into this week's video, give me the rock emoji. I think there's a rock. There's got to be some type of rock, because that's like I said, what this makes me think of a stone. It's so cool. And I need to come up with a name for it, which maybe next week we'll get there, but I don't know what to call this. I've just been calling it lace shawl, so needs a name. And that's it. I want to thank you again so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and that you take care.